My fiancée accused me of cheating, and her dad and brothers physically attacked me. Now the truth is out, and they want reconciliation, but I am sending them to jail instead. I, 30 a regular American guy working a stable office job, believed I'd found the love of my life a year ago. We got engaged quietly, just family and a few close friends celebrating at a backyard barbecue. At first, everything felt straightforward. Her family seemed pleasant enough, maybe a bit opinionated, but I didn't mind. I shrugged off their subtle hints about my background or my modest income compared to some flashy folks they knew. I was happy to marry their daughter, and that was all that mattered to me. Then, a few weeks ago, everything changed. On a Sunday afternoon, my fiancée demanded we talk. She showed me a series of photos on her phone, grainy, poorly lit images of me leaving a restaurant with another woman. I stared in disbelief. The woman in those photos was just a co-worker I'd had lunch with, nothing romantic at all. But my fiancée wouldn't listen. She called me a cheater, screamed that she'd been warned about guys like me. Her tone was vicious, as if every warm moment we'd shared had never existed. Before I could fully process what was happening, her father and 2 brothers stormed in. They accused me of playing with her heart, of using her, of betraying their family. I tried to explain the misunderstanding, show them text messages proving my coworker was just that, a coworker. But they wouldn't have it. Without hesitation, they attacked me right there in my own living room. Punches flew. A lamp crashed to the floor. I ended up bruised and bloodied, barely able to stand. They left me half-dazed, warning that if I came near their daughter again, they'd do worse. My fiancée stood at the door, arms folded, glaring like I was some disease. She told me the engagement was off, that I was lucky they didn't break my bones. I was stunned. One moment I'd been planning wedding details, and the next I was facing a rage-filled family assault. Hurt and furious, I went to the hospital to patch up my wounds. The doctor asked if I wanted to report the assault. I hesitated, still in shock, but I knew I'd need to protect myself. I called a lawyer friend who advised me to go to the police and document everything. I filed a police report. The officers seemed sympathetic, took photos of my injuries, noted down names. They told me the investigation could take time, but I had a strong case. My lawyer said these were clear-cut charges of aggravated assault. I knew pressing charges would be no small thing. It would blow everything wide open. But after what they did, I didn't see another choice. A week passed in a numb fog of disbelief. Then I got a call from a distant relative of my fiancée, someone who knew something crucial. "You need to know the whole story," he said quietly. I braced myself. I had no idea just how deep the betrayal ran. The next evening, I met that distant relative, an uncle who lived 2 states over, only coming to town for big family events. We met at a diner off the highway. He looked uneasy, glancing around before speaking. "You deserve the truth," he said quietly. "Your fiancée's mother engineered this. She never liked you, never thought you were good enough. She wanted her daughter to marry her friend's son, a wealthy guy with family connections." I leaned forward, heart pounding. "What does that have to do with these fake cheating photos?" I asked. He sighed. "Her mother hired someone to follow you, snap ambiguous pictures, and twist them into a scandal. She fed lies to your fiancée, told her you'd been seen around town with other women, spread rumors you were living a double life. By the time you got home that day, your fiancée was primed to see you as a villain. Her dad and brothers, well, they're hot-headed. She knew if they believed you cheated, they'd lash out, scare you off." I clenched my fists, anger burning hot. They planned this all to break us up, and now I had bruises to prove how well it worked. I asked if he had any proof. The uncle nodded, sliding me a USB drive. There are text messages I intercepted, sent between the mother and her friend. They talk openly about framing you. The mother's words are clear. She wanted you gone so her daughter would be free to marry someone more suitable. Disgust rose in my throat. I thanked him and left, hardly tasting my coffee, focused on what I'd do next. Armed with these messages, I met my lawyer again. He listened, jaw tightening. "This changes everything," he said. "We can show conspiracy, malicious intent. It supports your assault case, proves you were targeted under false pretenses." He advised me to hand the evidence to the police. I did, and the detective's eyebrows shot up as he read through the transcripts. Now they had motive, planning, and a violent aftermath. The mother's involvement turned a simple assault case into something more sinister. A few days later, I got a call from my fiancée's father. He sounded nervous, contrite, saying, "We might have acted rashly. Let's talk." My lawyer told me not to meet them alone. I refused. Then my fiancée texted me, "I'm so sorry, I was confused. Let's try again, please." Now that the truth was out, they wanted to patch things up, pretend nothing happened. Unbelievable. After smearing my name and attacking me physically, now they spoke of reconciliation. They must have realized the legal trouble they were in. I ignored them. My silence drove them to show up at my apartment's doorstep, knocking, begging. I didn't open the door, just called the police to report harassment. My fiancée called again, leaving a voicemail. I had no idea my mother lied. "Please understand, I was manipulated." Her voice trembled, but I couldn't ignore what she'd done, believing them without proof, turning on me in a heartbeat. I scheduled a meeting with the district attorney handling my assault case. He reviewed the new evidence and nodded grimly. "We can pursue not only assault charges against her father and brothers, but also conspiracy and possibly attempted extortion if we find financial arrangements tied to that arranged marriage plan." This was serious. Jail time wasn't just a distant threat. It was a likely outcome for them if convicted. The DA seemed confident. He had texts, a witness, the uncle, and my injuries documented by hospital records. The father and brothers had acted on a fabricated scenario, and the mother set it all in motion. As the legal gears turned, I found myself standing firm. My fiancée sent more messages, voice trembling in every voicemail. I was scared of my family. I didn't know what to do. "Please, let's talk." I listened in silence. If she truly loved me, why did she never ask for my side before letting them beat me? She had a moment to choose trust over blind rage, and she failed. Now, with the truth out, she wanted forgiveness. But forgiveness wouldn't heal my bruises or erase their betrayal. Her family tried a different tactic. A cousin approached me in my office parking lot, urging me to drop the charges. "They made a mistake," he said, palms raised in a pleading gesture. "No one wants a court battle. Just let it go." I refused. A mistake doesn't involve premeditation, lies, and violence. The cousin hinted at compensation. "They'll pay for your medical bills, offer a settlement." I shook my head. I wasn't interested in hush money. They deserved a fair trial, and if found guilty, they deserved the punishment the law prescribed. Soon enough, my lawyer told me the police made arrests. The father and brothers were picked up for assault and battery. The mother was taken in for questioning about the conspiracy. The fiancée wasn't arrested. She hadn't directly assaulted me, but her credibility was shot. I heard that while under questioning, the mother tried to play innocent, claiming she only encouraged her family to protect her daughter's honor. The police had the text, though, showing how she egged them on, planned the fake evidence, and arranged the timing. The father and brothers tried to say they were just defending their daughter's dignity. But the detectives didn't buy it. They knew the difference between defending honor and orchestrating a violent ambush. My fiancée grew desperate. She begged me to meet at a cafe near the courthouse. Against my lawyer's advice, I agreed, so long as I could bring a friend to witness. She arrived looking worn, eyes rimmed red. "I've lost everything," she sobbed. "My family's facing charges. We might lose our home. Please, can't we solve this outside of court?" I stared at her across the table, remembering how easily she believed the worst of me. Her apology fell flat. She had chosen her side when she let them pummel me over a fabricated rumor. I leaned forward, speaking quietly so my friend could hear. "You believe a lie without giving me a chance. You stood by while they assaulted me. I was left bleeding on the floor. Now that the truth is exposed, you want me to drop it and move on?" She sobbed, hands trembling. "I was scared of my parents. My mother insisted you were cheating. She said your coworker lunches proved it. I didn't know what to believe." I shook my head. "If you loved me, you'd have asked for my side. You would have demanded proof," confronted me calmly. "Instead, you let them beat me. Now you face the law, not because of me, but because of what you all chose to do." She tried reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. "I'm pressing charges. I'm going through with this. They deserve to face the consequences of their crimes. If you think love means turning a blind eye to violence and lies, then you never understood me at all." She broke down crying. She begged again. But I was done. I stood up, left her at that table, and returned home. In the following weeks, the legal process unfolded. The father and brothers were indicted for assault. The mother faced conspiracy charges. The DA was confident, and my lawyer kept me informed. The family, once so proud and entitled, now squirmed under the scrutiny of the justice system. They tried everything: plea deals, sob stories, but the evidence was too strong. On the day of the trial, I testified calmly, describing the assault and the deception leading up to it. The jury saw the photos of my injuries, read the text messages revealing the mother's plan. They heard testimony from the uncle who'd come forward. They listened to the defense try to spin it as a misunderstanding, but the facts were undeniable. The verdict: guilty. The father and brothers received prison sentences for aggravated assault. The mother got time for conspiracy. They would all have permanent criminal records. My former fiancée, though not criminally charged, lost her standing in the community. People knew what happened. She tried to contact me after the sentencing, but I blocked her number. I refused to entertain any more pleas. In the aftermath, I reclaimed my life. The bruises healed, and I began to trust myself again. I learned a painful lesson. Love without mutual respect and trust isn't love at all. Justice prevailed this time, proving that schemes built on lies and brute force can collapse under the weight of truth. If watching entitled families face real consequences piques your interest, hit that subscribe button. You never know what storm I'll be talking about next.
After an argument, my girlfriend posted my private medical records online to humiliate me. I didn't reply. Instead, I had my lawyer send her a "see you in court" email. The post vanished and she was left frantically leaving tearful voicemails begging me to call it off. I'm 29 male. For 2 years, I thought my relationship with Amanda, 27, was the real deal. I genuinely believed we were on the same team. I learned last week that we weren't even playing the same sport. It all detonated over something that should have been a non-issue. I have an autoimmune condition. It's a daily grind of chronic pain and fatigue that I manage, but some days it wins. Last Saturday was one of those days. We had a friend's barbecue to go to, and I told Amanda I just couldn't. The pain was too intense. I needed to stay home and rest. She lost it. It wasn't just disappointment, it was contempt. She called me lazy, an attention seeker, and accused me of using my illness as an excuse to avoid her friends. The argument got heated, and she said some things that cut deep, calling my condition convenient and me pathetic. Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the photos on the wall rattled. I was too hurt and exhausted to even process it. I took my medication and crashed on the sofa. Hours later, I woke up to my phone buzzing like a trapped hornet. A flood of texts, DMs, missed calls. My friend Timothy sent a screenshot with the text, "I am so sorry, man. What is she doing?" I opened the image and the world went quiet. It was a public post from Amanda. She had taken a photo of a diagnostic letter from my specialist, a letter I kept in a folder in my desk drawer. It detailed my specific autoimmune disorder, the medications, the long-term outlook, my private, vulnerable truth. Above the photo, she'd written, "For everyone who's ever wondered why my boyfriend is so flaky and always cancels plans, here's why. Apparently he has a super serious and very real condition, or maybe he's just the best actor I know. You be the judge. #drama queen, man-child, someone's get this Guyano scar." I felt a hot, dizzying wave of nausea. This wasn't anger, not yet. It was profound shock, humiliation. The feeling of being emotionally naked in a town square. My name wasn't on the letterhead, but it didn't need to be. Our friends, colleagues, and acquaintances all knew. My first instinct wasn't to scream or call her. It was to take meticulous screenshots. The post. Every single comment, the ones from her friends egging her on, and the few from my friends trying to defend me. I saved everything to a secure folder. The initial shock slowly began to curdle into a cold, hard knot of anger in my stomach. This wasn't a mistake. This was a deliberate act of cruelty. I spent the rest of the night in a daze. The next day, I didn't go to work. I just sat there, thinking. A conversation wouldn't fix this. An apology wouldn't erase it. This was a violation so deep that it required a response she couldn't ignore or manipulate. I spent hours researching privacy and defamation lawyers. I found a reputable firm and filled out their consultation form, attaching the evidence. I didn't expect a reply for days, but a paralegal emailed me back that afternoon to schedule a call with one of their lawyers, a Mr. Ronald, for the following day. The call was sobering. Mr. Ronald was professional and direct. He confirmed that what Amanda had done was a serious civil offense, public disclosure of private facts, with a strong case for defamation given the mocking caption. He laid out a path forward. He didn't promise a massive payday or a dramatic courtroom victory. He talked about strategy. His first recommended step wasn't a lawsuit. It was a formal cease and desist letter. It would be sent via email and registered post. It would demand the immediate and permanent removal of the post, a formal apology, and it would state that we reserve the right to pursue full legal damages if the demands weren't met. It was the first official shot across the bow. "I want to proceed," I told him, my voice steady for the first time in 24 hours. "She needs to understand that this isn't a game." The letter was sent that afternoon. For about 4 hours, silence. Then the post vanished. My phone lit up a minute later. It was Amanda. I stared at her name, then hit decline. It went to voicemail. Voicemail 1, panicked. "Brian? What was that email? My dad saw it. He's freaking out. A lawyer? Are you serious? I took the post down. Look, it's gone. This is insane. You're taking this way too far. Call me back. This is a huge misunderstanding." Another call. Voicemail. Voicemail 2, voice shifting from tears to indignation. "A lawsuit? Are you really threatening to sue me? It was a stupid joke, Brian. I was mad. You can't do this to me. My parents will lose their minds. This could mess up my career. Just call me. We can fix this, please." The voicemails kept coming. Each one was a master class in non-apology. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was terrified of the consequences. And as I listened to her panic, that cold knot in my stomach solidified into resolve. This was the right path. This was the only path. Update 1. Hey everyone. Thank you for the supportive comments. It's been a draining week, but your messages have been a bright spot. I'm still not talking to Amanda. As per Mr. Ronald's advice, all communication must go through him. This has not gone over well with Amanda's family. The voicemails continued for 2 days. I have them all saved. After the tearful begging failed, the tone shifted to anger and entitlement. One gem was, "I'm the one who looks like a psycho now because you couldn't just talk to me. You've made this so much worse." The lack of self-awareness is a marvel. Then, her father, George, got involved. He didn't call me. He's too smart for that. He sent me an email. The subject line was a misunderstanding. The email was patronizingly friendly. He called the incident an unfortunate overreaction. On my part, he wrote about how Amanda was deeply distraught and had learned her lesson. He then suggested that we should all handle this like adults and put it behind us for the sake of the wonderful relationship Amanda and I had. He finished by saying that dragging lawyers into a simple lover's quarrel was unnecessary and would only lead to unpleasantness for everyone involved. The subtext was crystal clear. It wasn't an overt threat, but it was an unmistakable warning. I forwarded it to Mr. Ronald, who called it beautifully arrogant and a textbook example of someone who thinks they can smooth things over without taking any real responsibility. Amanda's response to the cease and desist via an expensive-looking lawyer of her own came 2 days later. It was dismissive. They acknowledged the post was taken down but refused a formal apology. Her lawyer claimed the post was a momentary lapse in judgment, and that my refusal to communicate directly was evidence of my intent to escalate for financial gain. They essentially told us to get lost. Mr. Ronald's reaction was calm. Good, he said. They've put their position in writing. They're refusing to take this seriously. Now we can proceed to the next step. Filing the lawsuit is a big step. It's expensive and it's public. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if this was really what I wanted. Then Amanda made the decision for me. A mutual friend, who is more my friend than hers, sent me another screenshot. This time, it was from a private group chat that Amanda was in. She had posted a long message, a carefully crafted narrative painting herself as the victim. In this version, she wrote that she'd been worried sick about my increasingly erratic behavior and reliance on painkillers. She claimed she posted the letter in a moment of desperation, hoping one of our friends who is a doctor might see it and offer advice because I was so scared. She then wrote that my lawsuit was a vindictive and manipulative attempt to extort money from my family because I was jealous of her career success. Reading those calculated lies, seeing her twist my chronic illness into an addiction narrative to save her own skin, any hesitation I had evaporated. She wasn't just refusing to apologize. She was actively trying to destroy my reputation to anyone who would listen. I called Mr. Ronald. File it, I said. Let's move forward. The lawsuit is being drafted. It's no longer just about a humiliating post. It's about a systematic refusal to accept responsibility and a malicious campaign to rewrite the truth. They think this is a game of PR. They're about to find out it's a game of evidence. Update 2. Hello again. It's been a while. The wheels of justice grind slowly, and the last 2 months have been a masterclass in frustration and resolve. The lawsuit was officially filed, and Amanda was served at her apartment. No dramatic scene at her office. Mr. Ronald advised against anything that could be painted as deliberately inflammatory. The real fireworks started after she was served. About a week later, I was called into a meeting with my boss and a manager from HR. My stomach dropped. I knew what this was. I had been preemptively warned by Mr. Ronald that this might be their next move. HR had received a complaint. It was filed by an anonymous source expressing concern about a pattern of unstable and aggressive behavior from me in the workplace. It vaguely referenced my health struggles and how they might be impacting my judgment and temperament. The language was slick, corporate, and clearly written by a lawyer to cause maximum damage while maintaining plausible deniability. George's email about unpleasantness wasn't a bluff. This was the moment I had dreaded. But I was prepared. I walked into the meeting with a file. I didn't get emotional. I calmly laid out the facts for my boss and the HR manager. I showed them a printed copy of Amanda's social media post. I showed them the cease and desist and her lawyer's dismissive response. I explained that I had just filed a lawsuit and that this anonymous complaint was, in my view, a clear act of retaliation. The HR manager's face was unreadable. He didn't immediately take my side. He listened, collected my documents, and said, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Brian. We take all complaints seriously. We will look into this." My boss was more sympathetic, but told me to keep my head down and focus on work. It was terrifying. For 2 weeks, I worked under a cloud of suspicion. I felt like every email I sent, every conversation I had was being scrutinized. It was a calculated move to destabilize me, to isolate me, and to potentially get me fired to discredit my lawsuit. The next attack was more personal. My younger sister, Melissa, called me, confused and upset. Amanda had contacted her on social media. She didn't call, which would have been too direct. She sent a long, rambling message full of feigned concern. She spun the same lie she'd put in her group chat, that I was abusing medication, that she was scared for me, that I was unstable. She begged my sister to talk some sense into me and get me to drop this horrible lawsuit that was destroying her. This was the move that truly severed the last thread of any past affection I might have had. Trying to manipulate my family, to turn my own sister against me by painting me as an addict, it was vile. I sat down with Melissa, showed her everything, the post, the emails, the legal documents. She was furious on my behalf. "She's not just a bad ex-girlfriend, Brian," she said. "She's a genuinely bad person." Meanwhile, the legal battle churned on. Amanda's lawyers filed their response to our suit. It was a work of fiction. They claimed the post was intended for a small, private audience. It was public. that her caption was an expression of concern, it was mockery, and that my condition wasn't private because I had told a few close friends about it. They then filed a frivolous countersuit against me for malicious prosecution and causing emotional distress. Mr. Ronald was unfazed. He told me that these aggressive, baseless tactics were common for defendants with no real defense. They are trying to make the process so expensive and so miserable for you that you give up, he explained. Our job is to show them that we will not. The attempt to get me fired failed. After 2 agonizing weeks, HR concluded their review. The official feedback was a sterile email stating that the complaint could not be substantiated. The cloud over my head lifted, but the stress had taken its toll. This entire process was affecting my health, which was the ultimate irony. They were trying to bury me. But every malicious email, every lie to my family, every baseless legal filing was just another piece of evidence. They thought they could grind me down. They didn't realize they were just handing my lawyer more ammunition. Final update. Hey everyone, this will be my final update. The past 6 months have been a slow, quiet, and brutal war of attrition fought through legal documents and scheduled proceedings. It's finally over. We settled out of court a month ago. For anyone hoping for a public trial, I understand the appeal. But Mr. Ronald explained that a settlement gave us control, certainty, and a better outcome than risking the unpredictability of a trial. He was right. The tipping point was the deposition phase. My deposition was grueling, but I stuck to the facts. Amanda's was a disaster for her case. Under oath, confronted with her own social media posts, emails, and the timeline of her actions, her stories fell apart. Mr. Ronald didn't grill her dramatically. He just calmly asked her to reconcile her claim that the post was a cry for help with the mocking hashtags she used. He asked her to explain why her concerned message to my sister was sent after my lawsuit was filed. There was no big breakdown, just a series of long, damning silences and muttered, "I don't recall," that were recorded by the stenographer. Her father George's deposition was even more revealing. When presented with his friendly email, he was forced to admit under oath that he had tried to intervene in a pending legal matter. It completely undermined their entire narrative that they were the victims of an aggressive lawsuit. Shortly after the depositions, their lawyer called ours. They wanted to settle. The first offer was insulting. They'd pay a portion of my legal fees. We refused. The negotiations dragged on for weeks. They fought over every single point, but the evidence was overwhelmingly in our favor. They had no real defense, only bluster, and they knew a jury would likely see right through it. Here are the final terms of the settlement. The financial consequence. The settlement they paid was substantial. I can't disclose the number, but it was a solid 6-figure sum. It's not never work again money, but it is enough to cover all my legal expenses, create a significant emergency fund specifically for my medical needs, and provide a down payment for a small apartment. It's security. It's peace of mind. Mr. Ronald successfully argued that the amount should reflect not just the initial act, but the documented campaign of harassment and attempted reputational damage that followed. The written admission. This was my non-negotiable term. Amanda had to sign a formal, legally binding statement. It wasn't a fluffy apology. It was a factual document, reviewed by both legal teams, that states she publicly disclosed private medical information without consent, that her accompanying public statements were defamatory in nature, and that she retracts any and all false claims made about my character to third parties. It is a powerful document. It's my insurance. If she or her family ever breaches the non-disparagement clause of our agreement, I am free to make that signed admission public. The natural fallout. I haven't sought out information about her, but a few things have trickled back to me. Her social media is now completely private. The friend who sent me the group chat message mentioned that Amanda's circle of friends fractured badly over this. Some were disgusted when they learned the truth. Others just didn't want to be associated with the drama. I don't know if she lost her job, and I don't care to know. Her life is her own mess now. My concern is my own peace. As for me, I'm recovering. This process was brutal. It took a significant toll on my mental and physical health. There was no single moment of triumph, No fist-pumping victory. When Mr. Ronald called to tell me they'd accepted our final terms, I didn't feel elation. I just felt quiet. The tension I'd been carrying in my body for 8 months began to unwind, and I was just exhausted. The betrayal left a scar. I'm more cautious now, slower to trust. The world feels a bit sharper edged than it did before, but I'm moving forward. I'm focusing on my health, my work, and the real friends who supported me without question. I stood up for myself. I saw it through to the end, and I achieved a real, tangible form of justice. It wasn't easy or clean, but it was necessary. I refused to be a victim, and in the quiet aftermath, I'm finding my way back to being myself. Thank you all for listening. After I saved her company, working 80 hours a week for 2 years, my girlfriend paid me $50,000 and kicked me out for her ex. She replied, "It's just business." Then I joined their biggest rival, taking some of her main distributors. They were left frantically calling as their company's value slowly evaporated. I'm 32, male, and I'm writing this from a hotel room that smells faintly of lemon-scented despair. It's 2 a.m, the witching hour for bad decisions and brutal honesty. And man, have I got a story that's been eating me alive. It all started with a woman. Of course it did. Her name was Alara. When I met her, she was this whirlwind of ambition and chaos. She'd just inherited her father's company, Golden Harvest. It was a respectable artisanal food business, but it was completely stagnant. I saw the potential, and I saw her. For a while, that was enough. For 2 straight years, I poured everything I had into that company. My background is in logistics and market strategy, exactly what Golden Harvest needed. I'm talking 80-hour weeks. I redesigned their entire distribution network from the ground up. I personally forged relationships with every new distributor. I was the silent partner, the engine in the back room. We never had a formal contract. We had love, or so I thought. Our payment was whispered promises about our future, and whatever profit the company made, we just poured it right back in. And it worked. The company's valuation tripled. We were on the verge of a massive expansion. Then 2 weeks ago, I came home to our apartment, the apartment I paid the security deposit on, and it just felt off, too clean, sterile. My favorite, worn-out armchair, gone. In its place was this sleek black leather thing that just screamed, I have more money than personality. Alara was in the kitchen, swirling a glass of wine. She didn't even look at me, and right then, I knew. I need you to move out, she said. Her voice was as crisp as a new $100 bill. I think I just stared. My brain was still trying to switch from long day at work mode to what the hell is happening mode. Move out? What are you talking about? This is my home. It's my apartment, Liam. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold, like I was a stranger. The lease is in my name, which was true, technically. It was just easier that way when we moved in. Her credit was better. I paid my half of the rent to her every single month. A gentleman's agreement. Another one of those. And then, the other shoe dropped. Some guy walks out of our bedroom. Tall, generically handsome, wearing a shirt that probably cost more than my car payment. It was Ronan. Her ex, the one she'd always called a charming parasite. Well, apparently he'd charmed his way right back into her life. The next hour was just a blur of clipped sentences and soul-crushing facts. They were back together. He was moving in. This was happening. And I was surprisingly calm. The kind of calm you feel after the tornado has already hit and you're just standing in the wreckage. I asked her about the company. Our company. She slid a folder across the marble countertop. I've had my lawyer draw up a severance agreement, she said. A thank you for your contributions. Inside was a check. For $50,000. I actually laughed. A dry, empty sound. 50 grand. It was a slap in the face. It was a rounding error on the value I'd added to her business. And I told her so. Her response is what will be seared into my brain forever. She just looked at me, took a slow sip of her wine, and said, It's just business, Liam. Just business. 2 years of my life, my love, my sweat, my ideas, all reduced to a transaction. Ronan, the parasite, had the balls to put a hand on my shoulder. No hard feelings, mate. I just shrugged him off, packed a bag. But as I was walking out the door, Alara said one last thing. Don't try to fight this, Liam. I have the best lawyers, and you signed a non-compete. And she was right. I had. A year ago, buried in a stack of paperwork, She'd called it a formality, something to protect the company if we ever got investors. Like an idiot in love, I signed without even thinking. So here I am, in a sole lampless hotel room with a check I refuse to cash, and a non-compete that's supposed to have me professionally neutered for the next 2 years. They think they've won. They think I'm just gonna roll over. But they forgot one thing. I built their distribution network. I know every strength, every weakness, every secret, and a non-compete has its limits. It can't stop me from talking to people. It can't stop me from being a better option. She said, "It's just business." Okay, Alara, let's do business. Update 1, it's been a month. The shock is gone. Now it's just cold, clear focus. That check is still on my desk, a constant reminder, a motivator. First thing I did, I got a lawyer. Not some slick corporate shark like Alara would hire. I found a grizzled old bastard named Marcus who lives for employment law. I told him everything. He chewed on his pen, looked at the non-compete and said, "This is broad. Too broad, maybe. But fighting it head on, you'll go broke. She has deeper pockets." "So what's the move?" I asked. He gave me this slow, wicked smile. "You don't compete," he said. "You cooperate with her biggest rival." Golden Harvest's main competitor is a company called Terravita. They're bigger, more established, but they've been losing ground to Golden Harvest's recent growth. They have the money, but they lack the agility. They lack the relationships. I knew a guy there, David. Met him at a few trade shows. I took him out for a beer. I didn't say a word about Alara or Golden Harvest. I just talked about the industry, new distribution models, untapped markets. I gave him a little taste of what I could do. 2 days later, Terravita's head of operations called me. We had a meeting, then another. They made me an offer. My official title, Regional Accounts Liaison. It's deliberately vague. My job description is simple. Build relationships. And here's the beautiful, totally legal loophole. My non-compete says I can't work in product development, marketing, or sales strategy. It says nothing about being a glorified relationship builder. And it definitely doesn't stop me from having a friendly chat with distributors I already know. The day I signed with Terravita, I started making calls. Not to poach, not to badmouth anyone, just to catch up. "Hey, it's Liam," I'd say. "Yeah, I'm over at Terravita now, just wanted to see how things are going on your end." And then I would just listen. I'd listen to them complain about Golden Harvest's new ordering system, a clunky mess Ronan had insisted on. I'd listen to them vent about late deliveries, because, well, the guy who knew all the shortcuts was suddenly gone. Then, and only then, would I casually mention Terravita's new, streamlined ordering portal, or their perfect on-time delivery record. I didn't steal a single distributor. They started coming to me. First, a small, independent chain out in the Midwest. They were bleeding money from Golden Harvest screw-ups. I got them a trial run with Terravita. A week later, they signed an exclusive contract. Then a bigger one followed, and another. Last night, I got a call from a furious Alara. I let it go to voicemail. It was just a rambling mess of threats and accusations. She sounded panicked. Then Ronan, the parasite, sent a text. "You think you're clever. You're playing with fire. Alara will sue you into the ground." I sent him back a simple reply. "It's just business. They're right about one thing. I am playing with fire. This is a huge gamble. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm holding all the cards." Update 2. 3 months in. The trickle of distributors leaving Golden Harvest has become a flood. My new life is a blur of flights, meetings, bad coffee, but it's a good blur, a productive one. I've brought over 5 of Golden Harvest's key distributors. We're talking nearly 40% of their business. And my lawyer, Marcus, has checked every email, every contract. I haven't broken a single clause of that non-compete. Legally, I'm a ghost. Of course, if the lawsuit arrived. Thick package, intimidating, full of empty threats, theft of trade secrets, breach of duty, nonsense designed to scare me, to bleed me dry. But here's the turn I didn't see coming. Terravita's legal department, a team of absolute killers in $1,000 suits, stepped in. They saw Alara's lawsuit for exactly what it was, a desperate, pathetic attempt to stifle competition. So they didn't just defend me. They countersued Golden Harvest for anti-competitive practices and frivolous litigation. They went on the attack. But Ronan doesn't play by the rules. He decided to get personal. I got a call from my sister last week. She was a mess. Ronan had called her. fed her some sob story about how I was a jealous ex trying to destroy Alara's life's work out of pure spite. He twisted everything. And then, and this is what made my blood run cold, he hinted that I had a history of instability. He was trying to poison the well, isolate me from my own family. It all came to a head last week. I was in my hometown for my nephew's birthday. We were at a park, a place with nothing but good memories. And who shows up, like a bad smell on a summer breeze? Alara and Ronan, a calculated ambush. "We need to talk," Alara said. She looked tired. The strain was showing. "I don't think we have anything to talk about," I said, keeping my voice level. "My nephew was right there watching." "You're destroying my company," she said, her voice trembling. "Your company was doing just fine," I shot back, "until you replaced your most valuable asset with a parasite." I nodded at Ronan. He stepped forward, his face a mask of fake sincerity. "Look, Liam, we can make this right. Alara's willing to offer you a more substantial severance. Just come back, help us fix this." The audacity, it was breathtaking. They kicked me out of my home, try to ruin me, and now they want to offer me a few more bucks to clean up their mess? I just looked at him. "You want me to come back? After you threw me out of my own home? After you called my family and tried to ruin my reputation?" "It was a mistake," Alara whispered, and for half a second I saw a flicker of the woman I used to love, real regret. But then Ronan put his arm around her, smiled that smug smile. "What she means is, we're willing to be the bigger people here." And that's when I snapped. Not loud, quiet, precise, devastating. "You want to talk about being the bigger person?" My voice was low. "Okay, let's talk about the Golden Harvest Foundation, the little charity you and your father set up. The one you've been funneling money through to dodge taxes. The one that has a consultant on its payroll who just happens to have the same name as your ex-boyfriend." The color drained from Alara's face. Ronan's smug mask just dissolved into pure panic. "I'd found it by accident, buried in some old financial records I helped digitize. I never thought I'd use it. But they pushed me too far. I haven't said a word to anyone," I continued, my voice a deadly whisper. "But if you don't drop this ridiculous lawsuit, if you ever contact my family again, I will make sure the IRS and every major news outlet in this state gets a full copy of those records." I didn't wait for a reply. I just took my nephew's hand and walked away. The lawsuit was dropped the next day. But it wasn't a clean win. My sister, she's still wary. Ronan's poison worked, just a little. That seed of doubt is there, and I'm left with the bitter taste of my own ruthlessness. I won, but I had to become someone I'm not entirely comfortable with to do it. The war isn't over, but the tide has turned, and they know with absolute certainty I am not a man to be trifled with. Final update. It's been almost a year since that day in the park. The silence from their end has been absolute. The frantic calls, the angry texts, all gone. Just a void. Golden Harvest is a ghost. After an anonymous tip to a financial journalist about their charity, the IRS opened a massive audit. The scandal, plus their crumbling distribution network, it was a death blow. They had to sell. The company was bought for pennies on the dollar by some huge corporation. The name Golden Harvest is now just another label on a package, its soul completely stripped away. From what I hear, Alara and Ronan are still together. They sold her father's legacy to pay off their lawyers and their tax penalties. I see them on social media sometimes, through friends of friends. They're in Bali or Tulum or some other Instagram paradise, flashing these hollow smiles. They're trying so hard to project this image of carefree bliss. But you can see the desperation in their eyes. The parasite's charm, it seems, only works when there's a host left to feed on. My life has moved on, but it's not some triumphant, movie-ending victory. I'm doing great at Terra Vita. I got a big promotion, a real title, real responsibilities. I have a new apartment that's all mine. I'm dating again, cautiously. But there are nights like tonight, where I sit here and wonder. I set out for justice, for a reckoning. But the path I took, it led through some dark places. I used information I swore I never would. I hurt someone I once loved, even if she hurt me first. That $50,000 check, I never cashed it. It's framed, it hangs on the wall in my home office. A reminder of the price of betrayal and the cost of revenge. Last week I got an email from Alara. It was short, just a few lines. It said, "You were right about everything. I'm sorry." I haven't replied. I don't know if I ever will. Some part of me misses the woman I thought she was, the woman who wanted to build something special, the woman I loved, but that woman is gone, and in her place is a ghost, a cautionary tale. I won. I got my revenge. I'm successful, I'm respected, I'm free, but I'm also the guy who tore down a company, the guy who keeps a framed check on his wall like a trophy. And I have to live with the knowledge that sometimes the only way to win is to lose a part of yourself along the way. It's just business after all. And business, I've learned, can be a brutal, lonely affair. After a year of constant disrespect while I worked 12-hour shifts to support my family, my wife and daughters shouted, "You're nothing but a paycheck. We hate living with you. You're dead to us." I left the house that night. Then I stopped paying for their designer clothes and blocked their credit cards. Now, they are apologizing and begging me to return. I'm Austin, 48 male. For the past year, maybe longer if I'm honest with myself, things at home have been rough. I work a demanding job. 12-hour shifts are common, sometimes more. It's stressful, but it paid the bills. More than paid them, actually. My wife, Gloria, 46, hasn't worked since our eldest, Marie, 20, was born. Our younger daughter, Teresa, 18, just started college. Or was supposed to be, focusing on her studies, not her social calendar, which seemed to be her main priority. The disrespect started subtly. Snide comments about my clothes. Eye rolls when I talked about my day. Then it became more overt. Constant complaints that I wasn't fun anymore. That I was always tired. That I didn't buy them enough. Enough designer bags for Gloria, enough new gadgets for Marie, enough cash for Teresa's endless college expenses that mostly seemed to be brunches and concert tickets. The other night, it all came to a head. I came home, exhausted. The house was a mess, takeout containers everywhere. I asked, calmly, if anyone had thought about dinner or maybe tidying up. Gloria scoffed. "Why would we? You're the one who makes the money. Isn't that your job?" Marie chimed in, not even looking up from her phone. "Yeah, Dad, seriously, we're not your maids." Then Teresa, bless her entitled heart, delivered the final blow. "You're nothing but a paycheck. We hate living with you. You're dead to us." Gloria just nodded in agreement. Marie smirked. Something inside me just snapped. But not in a yelling way. It was a quiet snap, a decisive one. I looked at them, really looked at them. And I saw strangers. Strangers I'd been bleeding myself dry for. I didn't say a word. I went upstairs, packed a small bag with essentials, my laptop, and my personal documents. Walked back down. They were still in the living room, probably expecting me to apologize or something. I just said okay, and I walked out. Stayed at a cheap motel that night. The next morning, first thing, I logged into my bank accounts. Salary goes into my personal account, always has. I paid all the essential joint household bills that were due, mortgage, utilities, based on average past usage, basic stuff. Then I called the credit card companies. The cards Gloria, Marie, and Teresa had, the ones linked to my main account with generous limits, reported as compromised to be safe, then requested they be fully canceled and deactivated, not just blocked. Confirmed their deactivation. I transferred a modest sum to our old joint checking account, enough for groceries for a week or two, nothing more. Then I changed the password to my own online banking and enabled two-factor authentication on everything. It's been 3 weeks since I left. I found a small furnished apartment. It's quiet. Too quiet sometimes, but peaceful. The silence is a hell of a lot better than the constant chipping away at my soul. My phone started blowing up about 24 hours after I left. First confusion, then annoyance, then outright rage when the cards started declining. Haven't answered a single call or text. Let them stew in it. Am I the a-hole for finally drawing a line? I don't even know anymore. Just tired. Update. Okay, so it's been another couple of weeks since I walked out, 5 weeks total now. The peace and quiet in my new place? Still golden. The drama from the old house? Predictably, it's escalated. The initial barrage of angry calls and texts eventually died down, replaced by a different tactic. Guilt trips, voicemails from Gloria, her voice dripping with false concern. "Austin, honey, are you okay? We're so worried. Please just come home, we can talk about this." Yeah, right, talk means me resuming my role as the human ATM. Then Marie started. Texts like, "Dad, my sorority has a formal, I need a new dress. My card isn't working. This is so embarrassing." Followed by, "Seriously, Dad, You're gonna ruin my social life because you're having a meltdown? Teresa's approach was more direct. My allowance didn't come through. Fix it. I have bills. Her bills are probably for avocado toast and a new vape. The best part? Gloria's sister Janice decided to weigh in. She called me, left a long, rambling voicemail about how I'm abandoning my family, how Gloria is a wreck, doubtful, probably just inconvenienced, and how I need to man up and fix the mess I created. Apparently, me expecting basic human decency and not wanting to be treated like a walking wallet is me creating a mess. Good to know. I continued to pay the mortgage and the budgeted amount for essential utilities on the house directly from my account. I'm not a monster. I don't want them on the street. But the gravy train? Derailed. Permanently. A few days ago, Gloria managed to get a new credit card in her own name, or tried to. Surprise! With no income of her own for 2 decades, her credit score is probably in the toilet. She must have found out the hard way because the tone of her messages shifted again. Now it's demands. You will reactivate my cards. You will transfer my allowance. Lol. Her allowance. The audacity. Marie tried a different angle. She showed up at my office. My workplace has decent security, so she didn't get past the lobby. My colleague, a good guy named Noah, called me to say a very upset young woman was demanding to see me. I told him to tell her I was in a meeting and unavailable. She apparently caused a bit of a scene, crying about how her father abandoned her and she couldn't afford her tuition, which I'd already paid directly to the college for the current semester for both girls. Security eventually escorted her out. A little embarrassing for me, but also validating. Her behavior just confirmed I made the right call. The most recent development, I got a letter from a lawyer. Not a scary official one, just a vaguely threatening letter drafted by what looks like a bottom-feeder attorney Gloria must have found. It hinted at financial abandonment and spousal support and blah blah blah. My own lawyer, who I consulted the week I left, had a good chuckle over it. He said it's mostly bluster at this stage. I've been documenting everything. Every disrespectful text, every entitled demand, every voicemail, just in case. The quiet in my apartment feels less like loneliness and more like freedom every day. Still moments of sadness, of course. Decades of my life were tied up with them. But the constant knot in my stomach? Gone. They really thought I was just a machine that spits out cash. Time for a system update, I guess. Update. Alright, buckle up, because the Entitlement Express has officially gone off the rails and crashed into a dumpster fire. Things have escalated. It's now 8 weeks since I left. So, after Marie's little stunt at my office, I had a chat with HR and building security, just to make sure they knew the situation and that under no circumstances were any of them to be allowed up. They were very understanding. Gloria, after her lawyer's letter didn't magically make money appear, apparently tried a new tactic. About a week ago, I noticed on my old credit card statements, the ones now fully closed, several declined transaction attempts from high-end department store websites. They were actually trying the old canceled card numbers. Just got a transaction denied notification from the closed account's history. Pathetic and a little alarming, they'd even try. Good thing those cards are truly dead. Just shows their desperation. Then came the utilities. Remember how I said I was paying the budgeted amount for essentials? Well, with me not there to nag them about turning off lights or not running the AC at full blast 24/7, their electricity bill skyrocketed. The water bill too. I got a notification that the auto payment for the electricity bill was declined because the total bill exceeded the pre-authorized budgeted limit I'd set for that specific utility payment. The calls started again, this time panicked. Gloria, Austin, the power company is threatening to cut us off. You have to pay this. Me, via text, keeping it brief. The agreed budget was paid. Overages are your responsibility. Her, but we don't have any money. This is your fault. My internal thought, my fault you can't live within a reasonable budget? Interesting. Marie and Teresa apparently decided to help. I found out from a former neighbor, who I still chat with occasionally, that they tried to have a yard sale. Selling, wait for it, my old tools, my golf clubs, and some of my clothes I'd left behind in the main closet. My neighbor, bless her, actually called me when she saw it happening. I immediately called my lawyer. He drafted a cease and desist letter so fast it made my head spin. Sent it via courier to the house. The sale stopped pretty quick after that. Some of my stuff was already gone, apparently sold for pennies on the dollar. Infuriating. But also kind of pathetic on their part. Gloria's sister Janice resurfaced. This time she ambushed me at a coffee shop I frequent near my new place. How she found out I go there I have no idea, probably got it from Gloria. Janice. Austin, this has gone on long enough. You're tearing your family apart. Gloria is selling her jewelry to buy groceries. Me? Good, maybe she'll learn the value of money. You're being cruel. They are your family. They defined our relationship pretty clearly. I was a paycheck. The paycheck is no longer dispensing funds beyond its obligations. She huffed and puffed about me being heartless and stormed out. The selling her jewelry part was interesting. Probably the cheap stuff first, the really expensive pieces I bought her over the years. I bet she's holding on to those for dear life. My lawyer has advised me to formally start divorce proceedings. He says it's the cleanest way to separate everything legally and protect myself further. So the papers were drawn up and served to Gloria last week, around week 7 since I left. She apparently refused to accept them from the process server initially. Threw a fit on the front lawn, according to the server's report. Classy. My lawyer also included a formal notice stating that since the house is my sole premarital property, they would have 60 days from the date of that notice to vacate, as I intend to sell it. The begging has started in earnest now. Texts, voicemails, from all 3 of them. Dad, I'm so sorry. Austin, please, I made a mistake. We miss you. Translation, we miss your money. I haven't responded to those. It's too little, too late. The words, you're dead to us, and you're nothing but a paycheck are burned into my brain. You don't get to detonate a bomb in someone's life and then complain about the fallout when you're standing in the crater. The house, by the way, is solely in my name. Bought it before we were married. Another thing my lawyer is very pleased about. They are essentially living in my property without contributing. The clock is ticking on that 60-day notice. Still sleeping better, still eating better, still feeling lighter. It's a weird journey. Update. It's been a while, roughly 4.5 months since I walked out. The divorce is proceeding slowly, as Gloria hired that same cheap lawyer who is now trying to argue for a larger settlement, despite the premarital status of the house. My lawyer remains unconcerned about the outcome. So, the reckoning. It wasn't one big cinematic moment. It was a series of small, painful, for them, realities hitting one after another. The 60-day notice to vacate, which was served around week 7, expired at approximately week 15.5. As predicted, they didn't leave by that deadline. My lawyer then had to initiate formal eviction proceedings. It was unpleasant and dragged on for a few weeks with them trying every stalling tactic imaginable. They finally moved out literally the day before the sheriff was scheduled to enforce the eviction order, sometime around last week, week 18. After the divorce papers and the notice to vacate were served, the tone of their communication had already shifted. The apologies became more frequent, more desperate. Marie called, actually crying, a few weeks before they were finally out of the house. Dad, I can't afford my rent for my apartment at college for the upcoming semester. The dorm was full. My campus job barely covers food. I might have to drop out. Me, that's unfortunate, Marie. Perhaps you could look into student loans or find a better paying job, or adjust your spending habits. Your first semester's tuition was covered. Her, but you always paid before. Me, yes, I did, when I was valued as more than a funding source. Click, harsh, maybe, but true. Teresa, the one who said I was dead to her, actually sent me a handwritten letter during the eviction mess, full of remorse apparently, saying she didn't mean it, she was just angry and parroting what she heard, begging me to fix things. The letter was stained with what looked like tear marks. I almost felt something. Almost. Then I remembered her sneer as she said those words. She finished her first semester, the one I paid for, and has now officially deferred her next college semester. Rumor has it she's working at a fast food place to save money. Gloria's big moment of full realization probably came watching the movers take her things out of my house. Her calls during the eviction process were nuclear. Screaming, crying, threatening. Gloria, you can't kick us out. This is our home. Where will we go? Gloria, you had over 2 months' notice plus the time the eviction process took. You could get a job. Marie and Teresa are adults, they can contribute, or you can find a smaller, more affordable place with the settlement money I've offered. A job, after all these years I dedicated to you and the girls? The girls who said I was dead to them? The wife who agreed? My contributions were clear. Yours became less so. She then went on about how Janice, her sister, said I was a monster and how all her friends pitied her. Your friends who enjoyed the dinners and parties funded by the paycheck? I didn't say it out loud, but I thought it. The fallout. The house. It's finally empty. I had to change the locks and get it professionally cleaned. It was a mess. It's now on the market. Gloria and Teresa moved in with Janice, cramped I hear. Marie is trying to make a go of it near her college. Meh is still struggling with rent and likely couch surfing or in a very cheap shared place. The money. The settlement I offered is still on the table, placed in escrow. Gloria is still fighting for more through her lawyer, but their arguments are weak given the circumstances. The designer clothes and bags? I saw more of them listed on a high-end consignment site. Not getting what they paid for them, I'm sure. The daughters. Marie apparently did have to take out student loans for her current semester and is working 2 part-time jobs. She looks stressed in the one photo I saw of her on social media. A friend of a friend shared it. Teresa, having deferred, is indeed working full-time at that fast food place. A far cry from her brunches and concerts lifestyle. The revenge here isn't some grand scheme. It's simply the implementation of boundaries and the natural consequences of their actions. They devalued me, treated me as a utility. So I turned off the service. Do I feel good? Not good in a gleeful, fist-pumping way. There's a deep sadness that this is what my family became. But I feel justified. And I feel a profound sense of relief. The constant tension, the walking on eggshells, the feeling of being perpetually used, it's gone. My little apartment feels like a sanctuary. I'm reconnecting with old friends, focusing on my health. Even started a hobby I'd long neglected. I'm still working my shifts, but they don't feel as soul-crushing now that I know the money I earn is for my future, my peace. Sometimes I get a random text. I miss you, Dad, from Marie late one night, or an email from Gloria detailing her woes. I don't respond. The Austin ATM is permanently closed. They made their choices. They shouted their feelings from the rooftops. Actions have consequences. They're learning that the hard way. Maybe one day, years from now, a different kind of relationship might be possible with my daughters. A repaired one, built on something real. But with Gloria? No. That chapter is closed, locked, and the key thrown away. For now, I'm just focusing on moving forward. One quiet, peaceful day at a time. They wanted me dead to them. Well, the part of me that existed solely to fund their lifestyle is certainly gone. Be careful what you wish for.